Hello everybody, you're very welcome to Carragh Cottage. I'm roasting away here. I was setting this up and I put on a big fire. It's a beautiful evening outside, an absolutely gorgeous evening outside. I was out for a ramble earlier on. I hope you're all doing well. As I say, you're all very welcome to Carragh Cottage. Well, there's one song that I'd like to start off with today, and this is I'd like to dedicate it to President Biden, I have to say. Wonderful day to see a man with Irish heritage being elected to the White House. It is an amazing day for Ireland and for America, I think. He seems to be the kind of man in the right place at the right time at the moment. Anyway, all the good times I've had over there and all the fine people I've met down the years, I'll do this one for you. And it's a song that you will all know because I know that it's been taught in your schools, and I hope you enjoy this one. I'm bound to see you away, your rolling river. Oh, Shenandoah, I'm bound to see you away. I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. Oh, white man love an Indian maiden away. Your rolling river, many promises, it's the news laden away. I'm bound away across the wide Missouri. I love your daughter away, your rolling river. Oh, I've crossed the stormy water away. I'm Sorry about that, folks. I hope I didn't deafen you all out there in cyberspace. Listen, it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. In case you haven't noticed, it's like being in the sauna. That niece of mine came back here later on to put on the fire. She put on a fire that would really drive Money Point. It would. If we could harness all the power that's coming off this turf this minute, we wouldn't be doing too bad. Anyway, folks, a pleasure to be with you. We started off there with a song that's dear to my heart, a song called Shenandoah, a song that I've been singing for many, many years. And I suppose the reason I've been singing it for so many years is because back in 1982 I spent a lot of time around that area, around the Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, North Carolina, and I had a wonderful, wonderful time. And anyway, folks, I was kind of thinking during the week, and I was thinking a little bit about the pandemic, and there's a lot of people out there and all over worried and afraid about it, and it's changing circumstances and shifting sands in people's lives, including my own. Here I am in Carragh Cottage on a Sunday evening, where maybe I should be out in the hall with the folks, but it's the way the times are going at the minute. And maybe we have a lot more going for us, even technologically wise, than a lot of the previous generations that had to put up with something similar. And I suppose I recall a story told by my mother many years ago, and about two people who worked in Dublin. And one worked in Guinness's and one worked in a shop in Rathmines. And in 1947, there was bad frost and bad snow, and the climate in Ireland. For those of you who may remember it, I don't myself, but my sister Teresa was just a year old at the time, and they were living in Dublin. Both my parents, Matt Kane, who was born here, and Bridie Comer, who came from, you can actually see where she came from outside the front door. So the two Matt and Bridie, my parents, my mother and father, they lived very close to each other growing up. But they went to Dublin, like a lot of people, heading for the smoke, for a better life. My father worked in Guinness, as I say, my mother in a shop in Rathmines. And in 1947, because the snow was so bad and the temperatures were so cold, it was difficult for them to get fuel and turf and wood and everything. There was a shortage. So they were afraid that Teresa, something might happen to baby. So they decided to come back to Galway, and they did. But at the time as well, TB rose its ugly head in the country. And it prevented them from travelling back up to Dublin again, because there were restrictions, something similar, I suppose, to what we have now. Maybe different forms of transport, but the restrictions were the same. But it meant that they, as a young family, they were here. They couldn't get back to their jobs and so on. But the local landlord, General Bernard, who is buried in the top of the local hill here, and the local hill is called Knockmah, or locally known as Castlehacket Hill. Well, when he heard that those two people were out of jobs in Dublin and they were living here, he offered them what was the old church in Castlehacket Estate. And he said if they were willing to convert it into a home, he would give it to them, he would give them jobs, and of course they accepted, because it was all they had at the time. And it was an amazing turn of events in a young couple's lives that I suppose, I'm talking about my mother and father, and that's their story. And had, I suppose, if the circumstances were different on that year in 1947, I would probably be up playing football in the streets in Dublin or kicking around. I'd be over in the east end of the country more than likely, if I was born at all, because circumstances, it's like you touch one thing in a different direction and the whole world changes. And that's what did happen for that couple, my mother and father, back in 1947. Two people that had their hopes and dreams set on a course that they had devised for themselves. And just like that, the same is happening to us now, the circumstances change. And I know from my period here on this earth that you can make all the plans you like, and I've made plenty in my life. And as they say, we make plans and God laughs, because that's the way it is. I believe that circumstances are going to take their course. They're going to go the way they're going to go. And there's not a lot that we can do to stop it. And if you take into consideration the power of something that's so minute, we can't even see it. But it has ground planes to the ground, armies to a standstill, and there's nothing we can do about it, only to wait and hope that it goes away or we find a vaccine. But it's just one of those things I thought I'd throw it in there. I just only the other day I thought of this. And the same circumstances are going to arise for a lot of you out there, as they have for me. And it's going to be a whole new way of life for a lot of people. But maybe it's a new way of life that we cannot even tell now. But maybe it will be better. It will certainly be different. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that it's all going to come out okay. And that's the way I like to look at it. I'm going to imagine my mother and father making the decisions they had to make then, during the pandemic. And it all worked out well. Well, it did for me anyway. I'm here. Anyway, folks, that's my little thought for this pandemic that we're going through. And I wish that you're all keeping well through it. And looking on the bright side and taking to the, especially in weather like this, taking to the great outdoors. Now, that's all of that. I was asked during the week, and I have had a few requests in from a few various people. Songs to do on my own, and I know that a couple of people came on board while we were playing Shenandoah, and they asked me to give my regards to the lads. That's Pat and Fergus. Unfortunately, I can't. As you know, they can't be with me here this evening because of restrictions, and I wouldn't ask them to be here either. So I am tipping away here, doing what I'm doing. I'm going to be playing a few songs. I think a few people last week too thought that I was going to be doing a lot more on my own. Well, without the lads, it's kind of difficult enough, and I would like to keep the mood light. So I'd like to play some of the tracks that I have recorded from various places like the National Concert Hall or Kynes in Connemara or various things. I'll be playing a few of those as the night goes on. And I have another little surprise as well for in a little while. But the first thing I must do is do a request, and it's a request for Once I Loved for Niamh Fahey. Now, last week a couple of people asked for Once I Loved as well. And for all of you who like this song, if you like to clear out the throats as I'm going to do right now, and you want to join in, please do. A song called Once I Loved. Once I loved with fond affection, one whose thoughts were dear to me, till there came a dreary parting. Nevermore will she speak to me. Go and leave me if you wish to. Never let me cross your mind. If you think I've proved unworthy, go and leave me, I don't mind. Now you've gone and loved another, one whose thoughts were dear to me, till there came a dreary parting. Nevermore will she speak to me. Go and leave me if you wish to. Never let me cross your mind. If you think I proved unworthy, go and leave me, I don't mind. Here's the ring that once you gave me. When our hearts they did entwine, now give it to that laddie. He'll never know that it once was mine. Go and leave me if you wish to. Never let me cross your mind. If you think I proved unworthy, go and leave me, I don't mind. Farewell to friends and kind relations. Farewell to you, my false young girl. It's you has caused me such pain and sorrow that never will I return again. Go and leave me if you wish to. Never let me cross your mind. If you think I proved unworthy, go and leave me, I don't mind. Sinead, Carragh, thank you very much indeed. Sorry folks, I made a little boo-boo in the second verse, I just admit it, for those of you who know the song, and I know a lot of people do. But there's no harm in making a boo-boo, sure, life is full of it. Life is full of it, as they say. Well, I'm going to do something else now, and just to lighten up the mood a little bit, I'm going to play a few tunes that I recorded here one of the first days when the last restrictions lifted, and Pat and Fergus were here with me, and we did a tune that I like to tell the story of, and people who would have hear me play it in concert would know the story. But it's a tune that I learned when I moved to London in 1979, and I was working on the building sites, and each night we'd be out playing sessions, because London was a vibrant place at the time, full of Irish people, especially up around Kilburn, Cricklewood, Camden Town and all of that area. And all the dance halls and the pubs all had sessions and Irish music going on. Well, I was in London at that time, and it was an amazing experience, because I got to play with some real legends in the traditional music scene that lived there at the time. Some of them now back here in living in Ireland. I remember John Carty up there in the I think Sligo, Roscommon, John, sorry. When I was just a young lad in London, John was playing, and Tommy Keane, and all of those people. Raymond Rowland, and was a wonderful man as well that played, and Danny Meehan, who moved back and is up in Donegal, wonderful fiddle player. But all of those people came through London at that time, and I was at a session one night. Well, it wasn't actually a session, it was a disco party after a session. It was in somebody's house. And it was one of those situations where the music was blaring, as they said. It was up to 11 in the amplifier. And the music was kind of going boom, boom, boom. I got talking to a guy from Somerset, a man called John Skelton. And John now living in the States, and I hope you're doing well, John. You might even be tuned in. A wonderful whistle player and flute player and Highland piper and bombards and beanews, and plays all those sort of instruments. But I met John one night at this party, and we were talking about whistle playing. He introduced himself and he said he played the whistle. I introduced myself and I said I was also a whistle player and flute player. So I had been at the All Ireland Fleadh in Listowel that same year, earlier in the year, and I don't know, I can't remember what year. It could be about 1979, 1980. And John said to me, I asked him if he had been at the Fleadh Cule, and he said, oh, I was, he said. And I said, were you at the whistle competition, the tin whistle competition? And he says, oh, I was. And I was there, and this young man went up and he played a tune that day. And it was a tune that just blew me away. I thought, this is an amazing tune. And because I was sitting down at the back of the hall, I didn't have a tape recorder with me, or I didn't have any way of recording the tune. I really had to let it go. And that night I said to John, do you remember that young man playing that tune? And he says, I do. I said, you didn't happen to record it or learn it? He says, I recorded it. He says, and I learned it. And I said, will you teach it to me? And he says, I will. So we got two tin whistles anyway, and we searched around the house to see where I could learn the tune from John. But those people in all rooms and noise and everything, so the only place we could get that was quiet enough was in the toilet. So there was one toilet in this flat, and we went in and locked the door. He sat down in the bath, sat down in the loo, and he taught me the tune. And we were in there for a good, I'd say maybe 45 minutes, maybe a bit longer. And it was the only toilet in the house. So a lot of people were coming to the door going bang, bang, bang. And I refused to let them go because the tune was too important. But I think they made other plans. I think the neighbours' gardens did okay that night. But anyway, I learned the tune from John that night in the toilet. And about a month or 2 months later, John phoned me up and he says, we're looking for a singer in a band called Shigui that he played with, and he asked me if I'd be interested in joining, and I said of course I would. So I joined the band, and the first thing we had to do was record an album. So we recorded an album, an old album called Round the World for Sport. I mean old, it was vinyl. And on the album we decided to record this tune that we both had heard that day in Listowel. So we recorded the tune, but our problem was we didn't have a name of the person who played it. We didn't have a name of the person who wrote it. We had absolutely no way of crediting the person responsible for creating the tune. So each night we'll go out on stage, and I would always ask the audience, we're going to play a tune. If anybody knows it or has any information, will you please come and tell us what it is? But one night, I think it's in Castlebar we were, and it was the band Shigui. We were back here on tour, and I said the same thing. I said, anybody knows this tune? I'd love to have any information. Lo and behold, a hand went up in the audience. And after the concert, this man came around backstage. His man called Ulcan Masterson. And Ulcan is a wonderful flute player and whistle player. And if you're looking, Ulcan, thanks a million for the tune. But he came up, he introduced himself, and he says, I wrote that tune. And I said, wow, gee, I'm so great to meet you. I said, what did you call it? He said, Knock at the Door. And I said, why did you call it Knock at the Door? Recalling myself, the people knocking at the toilet door. Well, he said the reason he called it Knock at the Door is that there was a pub in Dundalk. Not sure if it's still open. It's, God, I can't remember the name. It's down by the pier and down by the sea. Oh, I forget it now. That's old age creeping in. But anyway, this pub, Ulcan used to play there. Indeed, I had some wonderful sessions there myself. But the musicians sat along inside the window. So if people wanted to get in for the session after hours or anything like that, they would do that international knock on the pub door, which was... You know it, don't you? You've used it a few times. Anyway, that inspired the tune. And it was just that. That inspired the tune. And he says, it was people tapping at the window that gave him the idea for the tune. And I said, what did you call the tune? Knock at the Door, he said. And he said, I love the name you gave it, The Convenience, because that's where I had learned it. So that's the story of the tune, The Convenience. And we're going to, I followed that with another tune that I got here in this house from my grandmother many, many years ago when I was just a young fella. She used to sit over here across the fire from where I am now, and she played a melodeon. And this is one of the tunes, as I say, that I always thought, again, was a long way ahead of its time. And it's a tune called The Hop Down. And the two tunes together are Hop Down, The Convenience. If you feel like grabbing your partner and go dancing, now's the time to do it.